So, the Marvel Avengers beta was supposed to come out early for PlayStation players on August 7th. However, it was supposed to drop at 9 o'clock p.m. and ended up coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. I played about 4 hours of the beta, so I am going to give you my unfiltered, unscripted day one experience of the Marvel Avengers beta.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another I mean the 22nd. When I say I played 4 hours of the beta, what I'm saying is that the last thing I played before sitting down and recording this video was the Harm Room challenges. I completed all the Harm Room challenges before sitting down to record. So let's start right off the bat by saying I absolutely loved the game. I had a lot of fun. I definitely have issues and concerns with my time playing the beta. However, those criticisms pale in comparison to how happy and how overjoyed I was with my experience playing the game. I know I've mentioned it in other videos before, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to illustrate how much of a Marvel fanboy I am. I have over 13,000 Marvel comics in my collection, and I absolutely adore the stories and the characters that this game is associated with. However, when this game was announced, I wasn't super excited. You see, I enjoy the Marvel movies, but I'm not as obsessed with them as everyone else is. I'm obsessed with Marvel comics. I love the 616 continuity. I love the artwork and the writers and the characters associated with the books. And while I really do enjoy the movies, I don't have that connection. Many people do, but I don't. And when I saw the E3 announcement for the Avengers game, I immediately got the vibe that this game was going to be more for the movie fans than for the comic book fans. So I was absolutely apprehensive until basically a month or two before release. I just started doing research and looking into the game, and I don't know, I just climbed on the hype train. Now, for sure, this game is definitely catered to fans of the movies, but that being said, as a die-hard Marvel Comics fan, I still had so much fun playing the game. It really felt like its own canon. It didn't feel like it was aping the comics too much. It didn't feel like it was too close to the films. It really feels like its own story. For example, seeing Bruce Banner kind of be a surrogate father figure for Kamala, even for brief moments in the story, was really interesting to me. I've seen Tony Stark be everybody's surrogate father over and over, and I want somebody else, especially for a character like Kamala. Kamala in the comics has looked up to Carol Danvers for so long, and has had connections with many different Marvel superheroes. But seeing her connect with Bruce Banner, and not just Bruce Banner, but a more subverted Banner than I've seen in a while. Normally when we see screen depictions of Banner, I feel like he's just always so angsty, which is definitely part of his character. He's always concerned about letting out the beast. But I feel like we saw vulnerability to Bruce in this beta, and especially with how he connected with a younger hero going through a similar but not the same struggle as he is. Seeing the way Banner and Kamala communicate is one of my favorite parts of the beta, and it really shows me that this is a very different experience than the movies and the comics, and that makes me happy. Now, speaking of comics, the Inhumans are kind of a difficult subject for many diehard comic book fans. If you're more used to the lore from the films, you probably don't know this, but there's a lot of animosity when it comes to the modern lore of the Inhumans. So for those people, I feel like this might rub them the wrong way. However, I'm not as bothered by modern Inhumans lore, and I'm really excited with the way that they're integrating this story with that part of Marvel Comics. Anyway, I think the Golden Gate Bridge opening scene really gets you into the story. It lets you play as a ton of different characters and gives you enough mystery to wonder what will happen in the full game. Anyway, let's move on to gameplay. Maybe we'll talk about story more later, but I want to talk about gameplay. Let me briefly talk about some of the criticisms I have with the gameplay. When I first started playing the game, before I got the tutorial, I kind of felt like either the combat system was really complex and I didn't get it, or it was way too simple and all I was doing was button mashing. I felt this way mostly when I was playing as Hulk, but like I said, after I got to the tutorial section, I feel like I learned enough about specific characters to say it's not button mashy from what I can tell, but I do still feel like there's some responsiveness problems. It feels really good to know what to do with certain enemies and to accomplish certain combos, but I feel like there are a lot of moments where I was doing what I was supposed to, but for whatever reason, the character or the enemies weren't responding the proper way. And that definitely could be frustrating when I feel like I was doing exactly what I was supposed to, but things just didn't work out. Now again, these are my day one feelings. In fact, I just finished playing the game and came to talk about it on mic. So it's possible this could just be me and I'm not used to the game yet, but I definitely felt like a lack of responsiveness at times. Not all the time, but at times when it came to the way you interact with specific enemies and completing certain combos. In addition, locking on to certain enemies was really hard. I thought I heard that there was a locking on like button, but I haven't been able to find it yet. So a lot of the times when I was playing as Black Widow, when I would try to grapple on someone, I would end up grappling behind me. And this was especially bad when it came to using certain attacks that would aim at a character or an enemy or an NPC. I would inevitably shoot at a wall or shoot behind me. Which brings me to another point. So I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima recently, and the camera in that game has notoriously been a source of frustration for players and reviewers. And I feel like the camera in Marvel's Avengers is very similar to the camera in that game. It's not exactly the same, but certain times I just feel like it's not responding the way I want it to. And there are definitely certain corners that I can get pinned behind where I just don't know what's happening or what I'm doing. And I'm just praying that I don't get killed while I'm trying to figure out where I am. I think the camera is one of the criticisms I can feel a little bit more confident in. I just think it's one of the weaker parts of the experience. And again, it's not overbearing, it's noticeable. Lastly, when it comes to my criticisms, I really felt like some of the platforming, again, didn't respond the way it was supposed to. A lot of the times when I was playing as Hulk, I wouldn't grab onto an edge or a sideways wall that I wanted to. But even after failing and then successfully grabbing a ledge immediately after, I would go back and try it over and over just to see if it was just me or if it was the environment. And it really felt like there's just a hitbox problem sometimes. Similar to the complaints that a lot of people had with Doom Eternal, where if you weren't right on the wall, you wouldn't grab. I feel like that is my experience here. And I actually never had problems with Doom Eternal. I felt like it was always very responsive when it came to grabbing walls or grabbing environmental platforming. But in Marvel's Avengers, especially with Hulk, but certain characters as well, I felt like the platforming just didn't respond the way it was supposed to. And again, I want to reiterate that like certain heroes did not feel as polished as other heroes. So I love the Hulk. Behind Spider-Man, he is one of my favorite Marvel superheroes. So I really wanted to play as him, but while I was having so much fun playing as the Hulk, it was mostly from my personal experience because a lot of the gameplay wasn't creating that fun for me. A couple of more cons that I had is just noticing certain weird graphical things. Now I'm playing on the PS4, not the PS4 Pro, so that's potentially why my game didn't look perfect at all times, and I'm not going to upgrade to a PS4 Pro because, as you know, the PS5 is coming out soon, so I'd rather play this game on the PS5 than see what it looks like on the PS4 Pro. So I completely accept that potentially it's my console that is the result of certain frame rate drops and just graphical errors. However, there are certain, I don't even know what to call it, gameplay errors that I don't think is the fault of my console. For example, when you defeat or kill certain enemies, every now and again, maybe 2 out of 10 times, their character model would just stand, even though they were defeated. And they'd look like they were visually destroyed sometimes, but I see this standing enemy and I go to fight it and nothing happens. And I just had to assume I guess I killed this enemy, but it didn't fall down, essentially. And then later, there were certain robots that would lose its entire torso and be missing one arm, and they'd just be floating in the air as if they still had legs. And again, I would go to fight these enemies, but nothing would happen. Lastly, in the harm room specifically, when I would defeat the tanks or when my AI companions would defeat the certain tanks, occasionally when they'd be destroyed, they wouldn't look enough like they were defeated, and even sometimes there would be a little red mark over its head telling me that I need to fight it, but there's no stamina bar and there's no health bar. So I had to assume I guess we defeated this enemy, but for some reason it still looks like it's ready to fight. I don't know if that's part of the full game. I don't know if that's something that they need to work out, but it definitely was confusing and happened to me a handful of times where I was like, oh, I thought I defeated this enemy. Oh, I guess I did. So I would waste time fighting essentially a dead body while there were other enemies on the field. So one of my big pros for the game is hearing the characters banter between each other. However, that's mostly restricted to the cutscenes. I heard some reviewers talking about how they would have liked to hear the characters talk more, and I completely agree. I would have loved to hear more voice lines from the characters while you're playing the game in a harm room or in a drop zone mission. They do speak, but just not as frequently as I would like, and especially not as frequently as Tony Stark. After playing the harm room for a while, I realized, for whatever reason, Tony has the majority of the voice lines. All of the sarcastic and witty banter is delegated to him. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be sarcastic. I just would like to hear, people say things. I mean, the Hulk could just roar for all I care. But for whatever reason, I felt like I was listening to Tony Stark the majority of the time, even though I was playing as Black Widow or Hulk. That's definitely something that I'd like to see changed in the full game. I want to hear all of the characters saying something. They don't even have to be talking to each other necessarily. I would just like to hear a little quip every now and again. I absolutely loved playing the rest of the game. I think I had the most fun playing as Black Widow, and oddly enough, Captain America, even though I only played Captain America for, a minute or two? I know you're going to be sick of hearing this word over and over, but it's the only word I can think of. I just felt like Captain America was really responsive when I would put button inputs in. I never felt myself questioning what was happening when I was playing as Black Widow or Captain America, or Kamala Khan for that matter. Every time I felt like I was doing exactly what I wanted to. And that feeling just isn't there sometimes when it comes to Hulk or Iron Man or even Thor. But yeah, Captain America for sure, a lot of fun, and I can't wait to play more of him in the full game. But Black Widow, oh my goodness. When I played as Black Widow in the Golden Gate Bridge demo, I could tell immediately, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to play as this character all the time. And it's funny because, personally, I'm not a huge Black Widow fan in the comics or even in the movies. It's not like I hate her, it's just I don't gravitate to that character or that character's lore. But as soon as I started playing as the character in the game, I was like, this is gameplay I can really, really get into. I really love the grappling hook. I really love that she has the option of using these guns. I really love that, I guess it's her ultimate. She takes her two batons and turns them into a Darth Maul lightsaber. Even the sound effects sound like she's using a lightsaber. But I just feel so powerful when I play as Black Widow, and again, I just feel like I have immediately a better understanding of how she works as a playable character than anyone else. So I'm really going to have a lot of fun playing as her. I already had so much fun playing as her. All the harm room challenges I played as Black Widow because I liked playing as Black Widow, except for the mandatory Iron Man one. Although that being said, I didn't think I was going to enjoy playing as Iron Man. But for the harm room challenge where I was forced to play as Iron Man, I actually really enjoyed my time with him. I didn't really care for Iron Man in the Golden Gate Bridge demo part of the game, but the harm room challenge, I actually enjoyed my time. I can see how certain reviewers just want to play as Iron Man. And going to another positive, I really, really, really love the platforming in this game. Even though some of my criticisms of the game already is that Hulk isn't as responsive when it comes to platforming, some of my favorite parts of the beta were playing as Hulk. Even though his platforming wasn't perfect, I loved the idea of bouncing off of walls as the Hulk and climbing up walls as the Hulk. I really loved the idea of supplementing combat with environmental platforming puzzles. Same thing with Kamala Khan. Like, it's kind of goofy using her stretchy arms to jump from, floating platform to floating platform. But it's so much fun and it's so exciting to see that be a part of the world. The beta would occasionally ask you how you felt about a certain mission and to rank it from, 1 out of 5. And whenever that prompt would come up, I pretty much gave it a 5 out of 5. The only exception is in the Winter Russian Tundra mission. I definitely had a lot of fun, but the one thing sticking out was that there was an absence of platforming. It definitely was present, but for whatever reason, I felt like I wanted more platforming in that mission in between combat segments. And the other mission where you're playing as Hulk, that is more foresty, where you're looking for Jarvis, I felt like there was way more platforming that made sense there. I mean, that's about it. I can't say enough how much I enjoyed the combat. I can play these harm room missions. Oddly enough, the harm room missions were my favorite part of the game. From what I can tell so far, the combat is so good that I can just zone out and fight waves and waves of enemies and really have a lot of fun that way. I can definitely understand how some people might get tired of the gameplay eventually, but from what I can tell, day one, playing the game the first 4 hours, I could just play over and over and over. And, I'm not a huge fan of live service games. I'm not a huge fan of, MMOs or MMO lights. I play Fallout 76 and I love Fallout 76, but with me enjoying Marvel's Avengers so much, I feel like it really just has to do with the coat of paint that is on the live service game. I tried playing Destiny and I just wasn't into it. And, I'm willing to accept that Destiny might be more quality than, obviously a game like Fallout 76 or even Marvel's Avengers. But because I have such a connection to Fallout and the Avengers and Marvel Comics, I can put more hours into these two games. And the more repetitive parts of the game that are just designed to keep you playing for months or, for years, as they say, I'm more okay with as long as it meets a certain par of quality, especially if it is a certain brand that I really enjoy. And that's about it. I didn't feel anything cynical about my time playing this beta. And I think that's important because even if the gameplay hits a point where it is shallow, I don't notice it because I see a level of care and I have a certain amount of fun with the gameplay that's already there, that when there isn't anything else to explore, I still have fun playing with the toys they've provided for me already. Does that make sense? Again, I didn't write this. It's off the cuff. I'm excited. I could definitely see how the story might take a back seat when it comes to the gameplay. I'm definitely more excited to play the characters than I am to see the story. But again, a criticism like that is so minor because I'm overwhelmingly positive about the game, and I'm excited to see the story. I'm excited to play more. I was really excited to see a lot of the bosses, Taskmaster, Abomination, but I will say that they didn't feel different enough, I suppose. Taskmaster had these quick time segments that came, I think, just before, maybe in between my fight with him, but I'm definitely not a huge fan of quick time events. It doesn't break the game for me, and it didn't feel like it was too much, but it did feel like at times that was the specific thing that made it different, that you were fighting a boss versus, a normal enemy. Again, I was definitely excited to see these supervillains, but gameplay-wise, it just didn't feel super different, if that makes sense, than the normal gameplay. So that's definitely something to think about. The bosses could potentially be more exciting or memorable when it comes to gameplay, even if their name recognition is enough for you to remember your encounter with them. And I guess my final note, this isn't really a con. I don't know if this was my fault, or maybe it's because I'm not playing at 9 p.m. like they intended you to. But for whatever reason, I couldn't connect with other players. I spent like 15 minutes once I got the prompt that I could look for other players to join my mission, trying to connect with other people. And every time, instead of telling me like, there's nobody out there, or, continue with AI companions, it would just tell me that I failed, and it would send me back to the main menu. So I don't know if that was my internet connection. I don't know if that was my console. I don't know if that's because, we're playing the game early and it's not ready for you to play with other players. But that definitely stuck out as like weird to me. And obviously, I don't think that's going to be in the full version of the game. I mean, multiplayer is such a big part of what they're selling. So I just wanted to mention it. I don't think it's a con. I just thought it was weird, especially because it would just send me to the main menu. So it felt like my game was breaking. And I don't really care about playing with other people. I've mentioned this many times. I'm not a huge fan of playing games online. But I wanted to try it out to see how it was, and I couldn't yet. So I don't know if that's the same experience of other people playing the beta, but that was mine. Anyway, wow. I know I potentially talked more negatively about my experience with the beta than positive. I suppose that's just how it is, or how I am, where I tend to be fair when it comes to my criticism. But I can't stress enough how much fun I had. It's just joy. I experienced joy playing the game. Even if a couple days pass and this turns out to be like the worst game ever mechanically, I can't deny how much fun I had playing the game, and I think there is something important there. I think that says something about the game, that I felt joy. And yes, it has something to do with my prior experience with the intellectual properties associated with the video game. But at the same time, I've played tons and tons of Marvel-associated video games. I mean, even the Spider-Man game that I've been collecting footage for to do my Marvel Avengers news videos, I know that game is not good, but I still enjoy that game, but I can say 100% that that's not like the pinnacle of video game design. And neither is this, but this is definitely much better than that game. At the end of the day, all I can say is I enjoyed the game. I had a lot of fun. I'm excited to play more. I think the gameplay is the reason why I can see myself continuing to play the game over and over and not get fatigued where other people are. There's something about the gameplay that I really enjoy. I'll say I'm curious about the story. I'm not necessarily like thrilled with it. It's not something that I can say it's the reason why I'm going to play the game. If we're going to talk about non-gameplay reasons why I'm engaged with the potential of this video game, the reason for that is going to be in characters. I really love the look of these characters, but I also really love the way these characters act. I loved hearing Kamala Khan and seeing her, be realized. Obviously, we've seen her in, certain cartoons and, the Lego video games, but in my opinion, this is the first full, realization of Kamala Khan, and it feels great. It feels wonderful. And I also really love the other characters, the big standouts being Hulk and Kamala. Now, obviously, that was, the most characters we got to hear from and see interacting. But still, I had so much fun seeing them be people and be superheroes. So that's it on my feelings on the game. I can't say it enough. I enjoyed it. I had fun. And I think the gameplay is fun. So if you value my opinion, then that's it. I guess the only other question is, who would I recommend this game to? And I guess I'm not really sure yet. I need to think on that longer. I need to play the game longer, and I definitely need to play the full game to make that kind of recommendation. All I can say for sure is that if you're on the fence about the game or if you're curious about the game, it's definitely worth playing so far. 4 hours in, just sitting down playing the game, no distractions, I can definitely see myself playing the game more. I can't just play a game indefinitely. I need to break up that kind of monotony. And I had a lot of fun with the game, the gameplay, and everything they provided for me to do. Oh, I also really liked the segment where Kamala had to smash little cameras. Again, this isn't the biggest innovation in the world, but to me, it was just exciting to have something to do in between combat, and that there wasn't just combat after combat. Even though I love the combat, I really like that in between combat scenarios, you can play these environmental platforming puzzles, and that you have these little things to do. I would like to see more of that. I think I was also just really excited that the game isn't just going from mission to mission. I think a lot of the game will be just doing mission to mission stuff, but I'm hoping there'll be more downtime and exploring that makes it feel like a bigger world. Anyway, I'm talking myself in circles. I need to eat a sandwich. You get my point. If you take anything from this video, it's emotion. I felt strong positivity about playing this game, and I can see myself playing a lot of it in the future. I'll definitely be working on a more thorough review once the beta is over. I'm not sure if that's going to be the end of the PlayStation beta or maybe the end of the whole round of betas, but eventually I'll be putting my words into a more scripted format to talk about the game. Right now, I've been streaming my gameplay of the game raw, so that means no commentary, no face cam. I normally stream with a face cam and with commentary. I'll probably be doing 50-50. I'm hoping to do face cam stuff tonight, but if not, you'll definitely see raw gameplay on my Twitch channel. And hopefully on my YouTube channel soon. So if you want to see my first 3.5 hours of gameplay, go check me out on Twitch at carrotscraps. Is seeing uploads on YouTube of my raw gameplay something you'd be interested in? Let me know in the comments if that's something you want me to upload to the channel. But if you're fine with just watching me on Twitch or watching previous broadcasts on Twitch, definitely check me out there. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If for whatever reason you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like or to subscribe for more. Like I said, you can follow me on Twitch at carrotscraps and watch me play video games live, especially this game live. I'm on TikTok doing things with Pokemon. You can check me out there at carrotscraps and on Twitter and Instagram at carrotscraps as well. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Man, what a great video. I basically just said, I liked the game so much because it made me feel nice over and over. Is there value in that? Tell me that. Is there value in my joy?